What's good, YouTube? It's Justice I used to be paying. Today I'm back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be asking everyone as a collective to move past the J. Cole apology. But before I get into that, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It helps me out a ton. And listen, look, I'm so dedicated to this video that I haven't even gotten a retwist in a couple months just because I knew that I was preparing for this J. Cole video. And I really want to establish this before we go all the way into this video. I'm not asking you to forget about the J. Cole apology. I'm not asking you to no longer consider it an L on J. Cole's legacy. I'm just asking you to kind of just move on from it. Leave it in the past so we can move on to different things when it comes to J. Cole and the conversation surrounding potentially one of the all-time greats in rap. Now, I'm going to do something that a lot of people tend to not do when they're talking about hip-hop and these hot takes and stuff like that. I'm going to admit my bias. I am biased towards J. Cole. If you really know me, if we've been locked in for a while, if you've been watching my content for probably over a year, especially on TikTok as well and not just YouTube, you know that I tend to kind of cape for J. Cole. He's one of the guys on my list that I tend to take up for pretty often, and that's because he was my first ever favorite rapper. I'm going to be honest. That might sound crazy to people who are older, and that might sound really crazy to people who are younger as well, but he was the first person in rap where I really looked at and said, okay, that's my guy. Now, he's not my favorite rapper now, and he's not somebody I consider the GOAT or anything like that, but that's just kind of giving you context here. But what I'm saying in this video isn't just me being like, no, J. Cole's really good, guys. I think that what I'm saying here in this video is valid, and I think that it's something that rap fans need to hear, okay? Again, I'm not asking you to forget about what happened. I'm just asking you to move past it when it comes to J. Cole, because when people talk about the beef between Kendrick, Lamar, and Drake, and it possibly being the biggest rap beef of all time, people talk about winners and losers. And typically, they look at Kendrick as a massive winner and Drake as a massive loser. And while that can be the truth, that can be the case, there are other ramifications of this beef that go just beyond what happened with Drake and Kendrick and what their careers are going to look like after this beef. There are ripple effects that are being felt by everyone in the industry, including J. Cole. I know that this isn't going to be a super popular take. I know a lot of people are going to disagree, and the like to dislike ratio might look kind of crazy, but this is just what I got to get off my chest. Before the beef started, J. Cole was actually kind of doing a lot to raise his stock, even within the big three, because J. Cole before the beef was going on this super insane feature run, which he's still on to this day, where pretty much nobody could deny that he was cooking. Like, even the people who aren't the biggest J. Cole fans, even some of his haters were like, look, I don't really like the guy, but the features he's been going and doing are insane. He's been going crazy. So he was rising his stock, and of the big three, he had always kind of been the odd one out. He was always the middle child, hence the song. So this was doing a lot for his legacy. This was doing a lot for his all-time status. And the feature run that he was going on, plus the album, the offseason, were adding a lot to his legacy. People were talking about J. Cole as, you know what, maybe he low-key is the best one of the big three. I'm not going to lie. And he was running around on every single one of these feature verses, talking about how he was the GOAT. Nobody can touch him on the mic. If anybody tests him, he's smacking them down. Like, he was talking crazy on these features about how talented he was and how he was the best out. And of the three guys, of the big three, at the time before the beef, he was kind of the happy medium, because people were really, kind of complaining about Drake and how much music he was putting out because they didn't feel like all of it was quality. They felt like Drake was just dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping, but it wasn't the stuff that is of the quality that a Drake level artist should be dropping. And then on the other hand, we had Kendrick Lamar, who was not dropping at all. And I mean, sure, he would drop every now and then a song, or maybe he'd be a feature here and there, and it would be good, but he just wasn't dropping at all. And J. Cole was the happy medium. He was the in-between. He was dropping consistent enough to where people were getting new music from him, but it wasn't so much to where it was like, okay, it's diluting the quality. But also at the same time, his quality was really high. So he was kind of the happy medium of the big three, and it even got to the point in which some people were starting to puff out their chest and say, low-key, Cole might have been the best one the whole time. Some people were really getting there, and it wasn't just J. Cole fans. I know this sounds like, oh, well, only Cole fans. No, it wasn't just J. Cole fans, even though obviously they're going to say he's number one. They've been saying it the whole time. But, like, it wasn't just Cole fans. The narrative that he low-key might have been the best was starting to build itself up. And then it happened. The Like That verse from Kendrick that mostly targeted Drake, but Cole as well, was a nexus event in rap history. And unfortunately for Drake and Cole, they were on the other side of the barrel. And everyone was talking about this moment, including myself, and everyone agreed that both of them had to respond, including myself. Yes, we all know that most of that verse was towards Drake, but there were shots there at Cole as well. And Cole, again, like I mentioned earlier, has been running around for the last couple of years on every verse for anybody that could listen, telling us that he was the GOAT, he was the guy, he was number one, he was UNO. He literally just said that on First Person Shooter. Number row UNO. He had been running around telling everyone how good he was and how he can't wait till someone tests him. And now was the moment. Somebody finally tested him. And not only anybody, but one of the greatest of all time as well. One of the guys who was his top competition for his entire career, Kendrick Lamar. A great. So this is amazing. And then we get the response from J. Cole with 7 Minute Drill. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't think it was that bad. It was solid. It was okay. But it wasn't anything too serious. It was kind of like a formal handshake agreement to enter the beef. He was like, okay, you want to do this? Let's do it. And then not even a week later, we get the apology.
You know what I mean? I pray that my nigga really didn't feel no way. And if he did, my nigga, I got my chin out. Take your best shot. I'm going to take that shit on the chin, boy. Do what you do. You know what I mean? Like, all good. Like, it's love. And I pray that, I pray that y'all are like, forgive a nigga for like the misstep, and then I can get back to my true path.
Now, I understand within the context of the beef, this is a soft move. It looks terrible. It's sad. Oh my gosh, he's running from Kendrick. But if we listen to what Cole is saying, for what Cole is saying outside of that context, it makes logical sense. We all know that Kendrick and Cole, there's no real beef there. Cole doesn't really want to beef with Kendrick. I know he had been running around telling anybody that would listen that he can't wait for the day that a rapper tries him, but like, he doesn't have real beef there. I don't think he was just talking about me and my buddy rapping back and forth, even though that could be a thing, but we all know that that's not where this beef was headed, and J. Cole could recognize that. And allegedly, he even got a call from Schoolboy Q, who is close to Kendrick Lamar, and told him, hey man, nah, this ain't what you think it is. This ain't something that's for play. This is real. So I would advise you to kind of just take a step back. And that's what Cole did. He's even said before in the past, if I smoke a rapper, it's going to be legit. It won't be for clout. It won't be for fame. We all know that J. Cole isn't really the type of beef, smoke, energy type of rah type of guy. We know that. We all know that about J. Cole. One of the biggest running gags surrounding his career is how humble he is and how, oh my gosh, J. Cole's so humble. Like, we know that that's not the type of guy that he is. Would it be nice to see him go at someone? Yeah, it would be kind of cool because he's never really done that in his career. But we know that that's not really how he operates. And so I didn't expect the first time to be when he's going at his friend. I didn't expect the first time for him to really start cutting people's throats in terms of rapping back and forth would be with somebody he has a good relationship with. So I never expected that from him in the first place, let alone with Kendrick Lamar of all people. And even when he actually does diss someone, like when he dissed Ye on False Prophets, it wasn't like him trying to slit Ye's throat and he hates Ye so much he's trying to put him in a body bag. He was rapping from the perspective of somebody watching an idol fall, watching somebody who was a loved legend in the culture lose himself. He wasn't rapping from the perspective of trying to end Kanye. He was rapping from the perspective of, damn, I hate to see it happen like this for somebody that's so beloved. The only real issue with his statement was the fact that he put out a diss beforehand. If he had never put out 7 Minute Drill and just came out with a statement following the Like That verse and said, look, man, I'm not really interested in that. Kendrick's my guy. I don't really want to go at anybody if I don't really mean it. Like, there's no point in me doing this. There's really nothing to gain. This is a beef that isn't just going to be patty cake. Who can play patty cake better? This is going to be going somewhere that I don't really want to be at. People would have been disappointed still. Of course, they would have said he was scared regardless, but they would have been a lot more understanding. But you got to look at the situation optically. You got to look at the narratives that can be created because of his actions. Because him dropping that song first and then immediately apologizing before Kendrick can even respond makes it look like, to the average fan, the casual fan, the people who don't really care that much, that he's scared. The people who already have a negative outlook on J. Cole, it makes it look like, oh man, this dude was scared of Kendrick. He knew Kendrick was going to come back and body him. So he pulled out before Kendrick could even say anything. That's how big of a boogeyman Kendrick is. He was so scared he didn't even respond yet. And then when you look at the beef in hindsight, because that's all we knew at the moment. We didn't know that like this beef was going to go somewhere extremely personal. We knew that Kendrick didn't like Drake, but we didn't know it was going to go as far as it did. We thought that this was just going to be the big three trying to figure out their order. So in that context, yeah, you're probably right to say J. Cole looks like he's scared. But when we open it up to what we know now today, it makes sense what he did. But even still, if we look at hindsight from today, people can use what happened to Drake and how Kendrick pretty much dominated this beef and dominated the perception in the media and dominated pretty much every aspect, and how Drake is looked at differently now. We could also look at that and apply our own headcanon and be like, oh man, Cole knew what K-Dot was capable of. He knew what Kendrick was going to do. That's why he pulled out. Look at what he did to Drake. Imagine what he was going to do to Kendrick. It allows fans to give credibility to their own headcanon for stuff like that, because he put out that diss before he put out his statement. This move will probably forever be a stain on J. Cole's legacy. And J. Cole was already somehow a kind of polarizing figure in rap before all of this, with a lot of fans being split on him. Some of them give him his respect as one of the potentially greatest rappers of all time, and other fans calling him just like a boring snooze fest rapper who's not really good at all and he's very overrated. So he was already kind of somewhat polarizing, but now whenever anyone wants to talk about his career and talk about his legacy and talk about where he ranks in terms of an all-time status, this is going to be the trump card. Whenever he's compared to the other two in the big three, people are just going to immediately put him at third. They're going to say, you know what, Kendrick won the beef, so he's one, and Drake massively lost, so you would think he's three, but really he's two because at least he fought back. J. Cole just kind of rolled over and died and just let the whole thing run over him, let Kendrick trample over him. That's what the narrative is going to be when people talk about the big three. Some people even want to remove him from the big three. 10 years, 12 years after it's already been established. Even I was really upset with J. Cole, and I was ready to remove him from the big three right after the apology. But then again, in the bubble that we were in at that moment, you had a right to be upset. But now afterwards, I think that we can all establish the fact that this really wasn't meant for him. And what this stain on Cole's career does is it undermines everything that he did before and probably everything that he's going to do afterwards. I'm not saying that this moment shouldn't matter, but I'm saying that it shouldn't disqualify him from all-time conversations. I'm not saying that whenever we're talking about the greatest rappers of this generation or ever, when people talk about J. Cole, when they bring his name up, you shouldn't immediately just say, well, he apologized to Kendrick, throw him out of here. It was a bad move. Everyone knows this. We all acknowledge that. It was a terrible move to jump into a beef and then immediately back out of a beef, especially when you've basically been begging for someone to try you over the last 4 years. We all get that. But what happened here was much bigger than just, oh, I'm Kendrick, I'm the best out of the big three. It was an attempt to eliminate Drake. What Kendrick did. He was trying to erase that man from rap culture. He saw him as a stain on rap. He saw him as something that was a plague. It was a character read and a character assassination by Kendrick Lamar. This wasn't just, yeah, I'm better than you, Drake. Like, just think about the things that he was saying about Drake in the context of the beef. He said, you're a culture vulture. You keep stealing your sounds from other places. You're insecure in your identity and your blackness. You don't know what you want to be. You're consistently changing your accents. You don't know where you're from. You're a sexual deviant. And you're a P3DO. And then what he would have turned around and said, oh yeah, and by the way, J. Cole, like 2014 Forest Hills Drive, like, I don't know, man, like low-key overrated. And like, I'm better than you. Like, that just wouldn't have made a lot of sense for what Kendrick was doing. If you look at the content within J. Cole's response, 7-minute drill, it just doesn't fit at all. Like, the things he was saying does not have the same level of strength that Kendrick and Drake would say and eventually did say. It just didn't match. Kendrick, you're short. Your music, kind of boring in my opinion. Kind of boring. What else? Oh yeah, you don't drop very often. You don't drop music very often. Oh yeah, and your music's just not that good. Like, I know I love your music and everyone loves your music, but it's not that good. And then Kendrick and Drake are throwing back and forth assault allegations, DV allegations, P3D allegations. Like, it just wouldn't have fit. It didn't match the energy, to say the least. He did not need to be in this beef whatsoever because he was never going to take it there with either of those guys. Holding this against Cole's career is holding him to something that was never really about him in the first place. Cole has an all-time great discography and deserves to be in these conversations, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of fans. So seeing this one blemish and immediately removing him from all those talks just makes no sense, in my opinion. He's established himself as one of the best ever. He's established himself at the very least, as one of the greatest of this generation and a legendary artist. And if we as a culture send J. Cole off into the sun with a whimper over an apology, I'm going to be kind of sick about that. I can't lie. Everyone loves to talk about giving people their flowers while they're still here. Give them their flowers. And I'm not talking about even J. Cole possibly, like leaving the earth one day. I'm just talking about his career being over. and giving him his flowers while he's ending his career. J.Cole, whether you like it or not, is a dying breed of rapper. And whether you think that's for the better or worse is up to you. If you think, guys like J.Cole being old news is a good thing, whatever. He's a dying breed. And not appreciating a legend while they're on their way out because of something so trivial is super short-sighted in my opinion. He has one of the better modern discographies and should go down as an all-timer. And in hindsight, this apology won't mean that much. Like, there are much worse things that have happened to rappers or that rappers have done that should probably get them disqualified from all-time discussions or probably are actions that are big enough to that hasn't yet. Both Drake and Kanye have confirmed not rapped every single thing or not written every single thing that they've ever rapped. That's a lot worse than apologizing, to me at least. Jay-Z got beaten so bad in a beef that getting ethered is now a thing. Just because of the song Ether, it's now getting ethered. That's now a thing. But people don't disqualify Jay-Z from those all-time GOAT conversations because he lost a beef to Nas. So I feel like in hindsight, apologizing shouldn't even really be that bad. And we ain't even get into all the other stuff we can talk about with the R word and a whole bunch of other things that rappers have done. So it's just like that in itself should not get him disqualified. I can even speak to my own experience by feeling just disgust towards J. Cole because I wanted him to compete with Kendrick. I was one of the main people raising the flag like, yes, I want to see it. I want to see if Cole can really compete. He's been talking crazy. I need to see it. I didn't even really want to listen to Might Delete Later after he apologized to Kendrick. I didn't. I completely stopped listening to that project, and I actually liked it when it first came out. But the apologies just left such a bad taste in my mouth that I didn't even want to hear the rest of the project, as crazy as that sounds. But I think that it's time that we do move on from that. I think it's time that we move on to different things and different conversations when it comes to J. Cole. Okay? Because the fall off might be the end. And retirement in rap is kind of like retirement in sports or retirement in like wrestling, where typically when somebody retires, it's not the end, especially the first time. They typically have a comeback or maybe even 2 or 3 comebacks. So it might not be final if it is retirement for J. Cole. But I will say that, especially because rapping doesn't really like break down your physical body like, other athletic ventures that people tend to unretire from. You can hypothetically rap until the day you die. But like with J. Cole specifically, he fits the archetype of somebody who, when they say they're done, they're probably done. I think we should probably believe him. I think once Cole retires, we probably won't see him again. He'll probably end up kind of off the grid. We might see him every now and then, riding his bike around at some park or, maybe playing pro basketball in South Sudan or something of the sort. But I think that once he's done, he probably will be done. I don't think that we'll see that many projects or any projects from him after the fact. I think that he does love rap a lot, though, so I could see him doing like features here and there, kind of moving similarly to how Jay-Z does currently. Jay-Z's not dropping any albums, but he'll do some features here and there for certain people just because he loves to rap so much. So I could see, Cole doing something like that, except not being a public figure in the same way that Jay-Z is. And Cole has other options outside of rap to make money. At least that's what it seems like. Dreamville, his label, seems to be doing pretty well from the outside looking in. I don't know the number, so maybe it's not. Maybe he's losing money, but it looks like it's doing pretty well. He's got Dreamfest going, so it looks like he's at a point in his time in his life where he can do whatever he wants. And if he doesn't want to rap anymore full time, he doesn't have to do that. And we won't see him again. And I think that should be, a big enough thing for us to just kind of move past the beef. Look, I wanted to see it. I wanted to see the big 3 compete. I say all this to say, look, I understand it. But I think at the end of the day, we have to realize that this was never J. Cole's lane. This was never something he was really going to do. This was never something he was going to do with a guy like Kendrick Lamar, somebody he probably considers a friend or at least a very close colleague or someone he has a good relationship with. So I understand the disappointment. I get it, but I think it's time to move on. But that's just my opinion. If you made it to the end of this video, I greatly, greatly appreciate you. I go by the name of Pay. And look, you might not agree. You might still hold this against J. Cole. I'm just saying I think it's time for us to move on as a collective. But hey, that's just me though.